Update. Am I the a-hole for not going to my parents' wedding before they get divorced again? Original post. So my 26 female parents, both 50, got married when I was 5 and I was the flower girl. When I was around 10, they got divorced, which no one saw coming because they never fought. I feel like I have to mention, my parents were both very wealthy and kept finances separate. And so it was an easy divorce and obviously they could pay for it. When I was about 17-ish, they decided to get back together. And me being 17 was overjoyed and was a bridesmaid at their second wedding. I really hope you see where this is going. But they ended up separating again. They didn't tell anyone and didn't get a divorce, but we all knew they were separated. And 3 years later, they wanted to renew their vows, in which I was asked to buy a nice dress for the occasion. Surprise! They got divorced. Again. And only after 3 months after their renewal. After that, I sort of just lived my own life because I wasn't exactly thrilled at whatever they were doing, and honestly, really over it. So, a few days ago, I got an invite in the mail to my parents' third or fourth wedding after 6 years, and so I called my mom about it. She was super excited and told me I was old enough to be her maid of honor and that she wants me to buy a $1,500 dress. That's a solid no for me. I told her I'd be her maid of honor, but I'm either going to wear the original bridesmaid dress, which is a cream color, or the other nice one I got, which is brown, because I'm not buying a $1,500 dress. She freaked out and told me that those don't match the color scheme, which is pink and green, and that she knows I can't afford it. Which is true, as I got an inheritance from my grandfather's passing. However, when my fiancé and I moved in together, he made clear he didn't want me to be paying for most things, and he wants to do it 50-50. So, we got a small apartment that he could afford to pay his share of, and all of my extra money is in savings/college fund because we want a large family of 5 to 7 kids, and they are, well, expensive. So I reminded my mom of that and told her that I also would like to use my money on other things that won't be worn once, and I'll have to buy a new one every 3 to 6 years. My mom called me a spoiled brat, and that I'm wasting my privilege, I have no words, and that I'm telling her I won't be part of my own parents' wedding. I told her that I was going to be willing to show up to the wedding and not be the maid of honor, but at this point, I'm not showing up at all, and told her to call me when they get their next divorce. I hung up, and got a slew of nasty emails from my family throughout the day, and my friends are divided if I made a right call, with the premise that they are my parents. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole 100%. What the heck? Who marries and divorces the same person multiple times? You're completely in the right not wanting to spend that much money for a one-occasion dress, when they most likely will divorce again, and you're gonna need the money with so many kids planned. I'm starting to think it's because no one else wants to get with them. I don't suppose the thought of just living together without a marriage certificate has occurred to either of your parents. Oh, a couple of their friends have suggested it, but they want to prove their devotion to each other, or some BS like that. I'm pretty sure the divorce papers prove otherwise. Not the a-hole. If they're both well off, why can't they just buy the dress for you? It's their 4th wedding and she wants you as the maid of honor, so it makes sense for her to just get the dress for you. Asking the real questions here. I cannot imagine going to someone's 4th wedding after 2 divorces and a separation. And not even like they keep marrying the wrong person. The same couple. Yeesh. Not the a-hole. I'm sorry, but once it's the 3rd or 4th time to the same person, it's no longer a special event or moment. That's just a massive display of stupidity. It's totally reasonable that, if they are doing this every 5 years or so, to say that either they really should not be together, or that they really just want the attention. Though to me this situation reads as 2 people who are not compatible, but can't stand not having someone to give them attention. If she lets you go, I recommend a book on divorce as a wedding gift. I think they need it. Or maybe a book on self-love. And now for the update. Hi guys! First of all, thank you for all the attention, and some of your comments were absolutely hilarious. My fiancé and I had a field day going through all of them. A lot of people suggested just making my mom pay for the dress, but I was debating the suggestion of just being a guest, though a lot of you agreed with me to just not show up. I ended up calling my mom and was going to make a decision with however it went. She started off the conversation that she didn't need me to be part of the wedding party because her and my dad were having trouble having the best people, meaning no one will do it again, lol. So they were going to scratch that part of the wedding and it was all about them anyway. So I told them I was coming as a guest, and after, I made plans with my cousin to give me a lift, so I wasn't spending a single cent on going to their wedding. Now, my fiancé and I go over to their house for dinner once a month, so we went over there Saturday. As I mentioned before in a comment or two, my fiancé grew up financially insecure, and so I struggle with convincing him to do something nice for himself once in a while. I did, however, just convince him to spend part of our savings to do a really nice honeymoon in Greece since we are doing a small wedding. It took some pulling of teeth, but he now won't stop getting travel books and researching, and it makes me so happy to see him excited about this. It was a fairly pleasant dinner until my own wedding planning came up. I told him that we were pretty much set with the wedding, but we were having out details on Greece. My mom got visibly upset and excused herself, and my dad followed. I was pretty confused, but they came back and my dad calmly explained that my mom feels very hurt, that I'd be willing to spend thousands of dollars on my honeymoon, but wouldn't shell out money for their wedding. I was pretty dumbfounded and said, well, we are willing to have an expense on the honeymoon because we are only getting married once. So yeah, I got kicked out of the house and uninvited from the wedding. Not super torn up about it, and this is now my fiancé's favorite story to tell. Happy holidays, y'all! I seriously can't believe your mom is trying to overshadow your wedding with her fourth wedding, not even waiting for you to have your moment. Not only that, but her fourth wedding to the same person. These people have more money than they know what to do with. Sounds like the best outcome, honestly, and I'm still laughing about your mother being shocked that no one wants to give her the full treatment for her fifth or whatever wedding. I have an aunt who's been married something like 8 times. At the last 2, she just did a quick stand-up wedding in a garden type thing because it turns out that no one wants to shell out money or buy presents for your 5th wedding to yet another loser. 4th wedding to the same man, which is like 10 times worse. You already know it won't work the first 4 times. It honestly just looks like an attention/gift grab. Your parents are toxic and wild AF. I picture your fiancé just sipping tea while all this was going down. Your response to your mom's entitlement was perfection. Are they still invited to your wedding? That's currently what's up in the air. I'm leaning towards no, because I know they are going to do something to ruin it. Fiancé is on the side of, it's going to be perfect no matter what happens. He just really wants to call me his wife. Lol. So he thinks it would bring quality entertainment. So it's an attention thing, right? The parents like being the focus on the wedding day, and then the sympathy/energy that people put into managing the two of them after the divorce? Or maybe OP's right, and they can't stand each other but no one else will have them, and obviously they can't get back together without a full wedding. Even writing this, none of it makes sense to me. I would love to be one of their marriage/divorce lawyers. The lawyer may give discounts for repeat couples. Next story. Update. Am I the a-hole for not inviting them to my Christmas party after they didn't invite me to their wedding? Original post. I threw a pretty big Christmas party every year, going on a decade now. A few years ago, at one I threw, my friend Tara met my former coworker Tony and they hit it off. They dated for a while, and 2 years later, once again at my Christmas party, she showed up with a ring on her finger, and they announced for the first time that they were engaged. I was super happy for them. They got married this spring, and we didn't get invited. So, when I was sending around my party invitations this year, I didn't see any reason to invite them back if they didn't think I was worthy of making their guest list. I have known them both for years, basically introduced them, and they literally announced their engagement at my home. It got back to me today that they're very upset with us for not inviting them this year, that my party is something they consider special and they think I'm being petty. A couple friends even mentioned it was a smaller wedding, and they feel like I'm just punishing them. It wasn't though. There were probably 200 people there, and I knew at least 50 of them, and I was a little surprised at some of the names that made a cut over us. It didn't make us think about it or anything, but I don't see why I should welcome them into my home again after being snubbed like that. My partner thinks I should just let it go and invite them back, but I don't see a reason why I should. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not a-hole. You can invite and not invite whoever you want without any reason. And if they want one, say it is a smaller party this year. 100% this. If the event was so special to them, then they would associate it with you as well as a special friend, and would have invited you. It also feels so tacky to steal OP's Christmas party to announce their engagement like that. If they ask OP beforehand, then it would be different, but just showing up with the rings on? Not the a-hole. If they can't even invite the person who introduced them to their wedding, then I don't think they should expect an invitation to your Christmas party. If you're not close enough to make it to the wedding invite list, why should they be close enough to you to make it to your Christmas party? And someone who catered and hosted their engagement announcement party. Haha, you don't know the half of it. Over the last few years, we have literally had it catered, had bartenders inside and outside, even hired someone to entertain kids earlier in the night. My partner and I put so much time, energy, and money into this every year because we love our friends. It started out small when we were younger, and now it's this big thing. I just don't like being taken for granted. Yeah, this is all making a lot more sense now. You go out of your way every year to throw this huge party for everyone, and now they're upset they're the only ones that are missing out. Not like they cared, when all of your friends went to their wedding and you were the only ones missing out. Screw these people, you don't owe them anything. Yeah, I guess that about sums it up. Thank you. Not the a-hole. Also, don't think it's petty. We don't have to prioritize people who don't prioritize us. Thank you. I'm so tired of entitled people ignoring someone until that someone has something they want. They weren't good enough friends to be invited to the wedding, so that says a lot about the value they place on a friendship. And now for the update. Since I got so many requests to check back in, here's the update. 1. I stuck to my guns and did not invite them to my Christmas party. My partner stood by me when I told him I had made my decision and didn't bring it up again. Neither did our friends. 2. Many of you guessed that they would try and crash our party. I got worried that could happen after all the responses, but thankfully it didn't. Probably 100 plus of you guessed she wanted to hijack the party to announce she was pregnant. If that's the case, they haven't told anyone as far as I know. 3. They did, however, decide to try and throw their own party at the same time as ours. Several friends told us they were trying to convince them to come to theirs instead. I honestly hope they had some guests and had a great time. I wish them no ill will. But I think just about everyone we expected came to our party, so I doubt they poached any guests from us. 4. They made enough of a last-minute fuss over this, that the whole thing became the gossip of our party, which was their doing, not mine. I chose not to engage in it, but the consensus I heard was everyone thought it was bizarre they chose not to invite us to their wedding, and that them complaining about not being invited to our party was in poor taste. 5. Most common question on here was why did we not get an invite to their wedding? From what I can tell from the people at our party gossiping about the situation, they've said it was because we're a little bit older than they are. I think that's weird, since my partner and I are both 35 and they're 28/29. So it's not like we're very far apart. Tara used to hang out with us at least once a week when she was single, and I literally introduced them. The whole thing still seems strange to me, but I guess it is what it is. So yeah, that's how it all went down. Our party was a blast. We got to see so many friends, some of which we haven't really seen since before COVID. Everyone had a great time. People literally brought toddlers we hadn't gotten to meet yet because of how crazy the world has been over the last couple of years. It was a wonderful evening. I hope you all had as good of a Christmas as we did. Props for you for standing by your initial decision. They absolutely didn't deserve to be invited to your party, and I'm very glad you ended up having a great time. Also glad to read friends/guests of OP agreed that the couple were acting in poor taste. If I were at the Christmas party, I would have tagged the absent couple in some fun party photos on Instagram to remind them of what they missed out on due to their boorish behavior. It was a good idea. Last year, a similar incident happened to me with one of my neighbors. Then I could do it, although now everything is fine between us. Yeah, it has nothing to do with your age. You and your spouse throw this big party. People enjoy your hospitality and appreciate you. If you came to their wedding, you would have taken attention away from the bride. People would have talked about your parties, they would have socialized with you, and at the end of the day, the bride and groom were not mature enough to deal with that. This could very well be the reason. But some people are just users and not actually your friends. As a guy who hosts a lot of game nights at my house for all kinds of affairs, such as board games, card games, etc., usually with 4 to 12 people, it's become very clear to me that some people that come over my house to socialize don't actually consider me a friend. I'm at a venue. Once I get wind of this, they don't get invited again. It's also weird because I only invited them in the first place because I thought we already were friends. Some people just suck. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for locking myself in the bathroom and having a very long bath, causing my husband to have to entertain his own guests? Hello. Well, I was not expecting to have to ever post here myself. What a complete 180 that is. I will keep this as short as I can. My fingers are still very wrinkly. Worth it. And it feels very strange typing. My husband often invites his work colleagues for dinner and drinks to our home. I do not mind this, but he always expects me, as his wife, to cook, clean, serve drinks, and entertain his guests as he mingles around. I have never attended one of these evenings as a guest. I'm always the one in the background and keeping everything afloat. After one of his last social evenings, I told him flatly that I would not be entertaining his guests anymore. I will not be a bar or a cleaner. I told him that he doesn't understand how much work goes into an evening like that to make it as successful as they have been. Well, he practically laughed and waved me off, and said he can handle these things himself anyway. And so this evening came around. He made sure I knew about it more than usual. I believe he remembered our last conversation about the topic, and assumed I wasn't serious. Well, once his colleagues started arriving, I took my phone, laptop, a bottle of champagne and camped out in the upstairs bathroom, having an absolutely wonderful bubble bath. He came up at least 6 times throughout the evening, asking when I'm getting out, that he doesn't know how to keep everyone entertained, that he has too many drinks and meals to make. All I said was that he should have done some prep work like I always do, and I reminded him how he said what I do is easy anyway, so he shouldn't be struggling. The evening ended, and he has an absolute go at me, telling me how disrespectful I was towards him and his colleagues by leaving him alone in all this. I remained quiet and only reminded him what he told me about how easy it all is anyway. He called me a string of very colorful words and went to sleep in the other bedroom. Am I the a-hole for holding my husband to his beliefs about how easy hosting an event like this is and letting him do it himself? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. That's hilarious. Good for you. And it sounds to me like he's mad because not only was he wrong, but because he just assumed you'd ask how high when told to jump. Yes, I definitely surprised him today. People always say to keep things new and exciting in a marriage. Haha, love that sass. Keep being awesome. No matter what anyone says, you are not an a-hole and you did it with style. Oh, bless your heart. Thank you. Not an a-hole. Good for you. Once he gets over being mad, hopefully he recognizes what a jerk he was being. Oh yes, I hope so too. Thank you. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not doing my husband's laundry? Background. He, 26 male, works full-time, about 50 hours per week average. I'm 25 female, a stay-at-home parent, also work part-time and I'm in part-time school, 10 credit hours. He tends to keep a large pile of dirty/clean clothes on the floor on the side of the bed that he pulls from to get ready. I've also established a dirty clothes basket in the closet and he knows about it. This morning, he's getting ready for work and is pissed because he can't find any clean work clothes. Me, I caught up on the laundry over the weekend. Him, I have all these dirty clothes on the floor. Me, oh, just put them in the dirty clothes basket that's in the closet. Him, what's the difference between getting my clothes from the closet and getting them from the floor? Me, because everyone's dirty clothes goes in the basket, and it's not my job to clean up your dirty clothes off your floor. It turned into a mild argument. I told him he's entitled to think I'm going to pick his stuff up off the floor. He told me because he's never here. He works 7 to 5-ish Monday to Friday, so this is not true. I have a better opportunity to pick up his stuff and wash it. I feel bad that he doesn't have any clean clothes, but also I'm not the maid. Edit. I feel like I'm an a-hole because I called him entitled. Also, it's really not hard for me to pick up his clothes from the floor. It doesn't take much extra time to do it. However, it's the principle. If he left dirty dishes in the living room instead of the kitchen sink, I would be just as pissed. Edit 2. We have 2 kids, 5 and 1.5. 5-year-old is virtual learning. Also to clarify, this became an issue when he said I should be able to pick up his clothes for him off the floor. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I work full-time, and I also manage to do my own laundry. I can accomplish this amazing feat as well. She's only asking him to put his dirty clothes in the basket, not leave them on the floor. He's an idiot if he thinks this is the hill to die on. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. I do the same thing to my husband. If it's not in the basket, then I'm not washing them. I can think of a few reasons it might be better to have a put the clothes in the basket rule. I have a hearing device, and occasionally I will put it in a small container in my pants. If I go for a run and have done this, then I will take my pants off, hop in the shower, and then deal with the device and pants. It would suck if the device got tossed into the washer. Not saying it couldn't happen if it's in the dirty basket, but I think it's less likely. Of course, my long scenario aside, it does boil down to being respectful to one's spouse. Not an a-hole. You're not a servant. His time isn't more valuable than yours. You're his wife and partner. If he can't put dirty clothes where they go, he can do his own damn laundry. And entitled is probably the nicest word you could have used. I'd have chosen a much meaner one. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not trying harder to tell my husband I was in labor? My husband, who I do love and does love me, is a distant and private person to everyone. His mom was having health problems, and I didn't know until weeks later when I spoke to her. I asked him how she was doing later, and he said didn't know. That's just how he deals with things. He doesn't want to get too personal with anyone. We share hobbies and can have good conversations as long as they're not too personal. It can be off-putting, but I do genuinely enjoy his company. Jump to this last week. I am pregnant and went into labor. It was only a few days before my due date, so nothing concerning. I tried to call his work, but his phone went right to voicemail because he was in a meeting. I texted him, still no answer. I waited a half hour, then tried again and still couldn't get through. My labor was getting further along, so I called a friend to get a ride to the hospital. By the time my husband checked his phone at the end of the workday, I had already given birth to our daughter. Everything was very straightforward, with no complications, and we were ready to leave by the next morning. My husband is upset with me though, saying I should have come by his work to tell him it was time. But he has always been distant about work. I know what department he works in, but not where his office is in the building. It would have been awkward. My husband has told me what I did was unforgivable. He hasn't called me an a-hole, but he said I am a horrible person for denying him the joy of seeing our daughter born. Am I the a-hole for not trying harder to contact him? Info because a lot are asking. I did text specifically that I was in labor. I left a voicemail to the same. I panicked a bit and didn't call his office because he likes to keep work and home separate. Which means I don't know a lot about his work, and I was worried I would overshare to his co-workers by calling, and him not checking his phone. That is a part of his work-home split too. He doesn't deal with anything work-related at home, but also just put his personal phone out of his mind at work. It is rare for me to get a response from him at all while he is at work on a normal day. Now for the top comments. He expected you, a person in labor, to come to his work to find him and he had his phone off, instead of silence or whatever, when he very much knew that you were days from your due date? Not an a-hole. Your husband is just clueless. He needs to have been better in general about paying attention. When your wife is getting within 3 freaking weeks of her due date, it is up to you to keep your phone on you at all times. This wasn't a surprise baby. He knew it was coming. And once you are within a week of the due date, it can really come at any time. The person carrying the baby already had enough to keep track of and do. The partner only really has to check their damn text messages. I can't imagine what his coworkers would have thought if his wife showed up in labor and was all, "My husband won't check his phone. I'm expected to go get him," and then proceeded to have a baby in the front lobby because she didn't take her butt to the hospital. I promise you, people would tell that story for years, and everyone at work would consider him an a-hole of the highest order. Was coming here to say this. I'm sorry, but he was an idiot about this. My husband works in a large factory. I don't have a work number for him, just to sell. So before I had my last 2 kids, we had a plan in place in case he didn't answer. I had numbers of 4 different co-workers of his that could track him down if necessary. The fact that neither of you thought about this possibility is mind-boggling. But ultimately, it was his responsibility to say, "Hey, here's how to reach me in an emergency." My husband works in mining and isn't allowed to have his phone on him during his shift. From 7 months, he had a special clearance to keep his phone on him, and I had his supervisor's phone number. This husband is a massive A. Not an a-hole. Your husband let you down. He wasn't there for you for the birth of your child and is making it about him. He has twisted this. Not an a-hole. Not only that the husband is being selfish for expecting her, going into labor by the way, To drive by his work and go to the hospital all while she's in immense pain and blaming OP, when it's not her fault at all, and she can't control when her baby is born. Besides, she tried calling him and he didn't answer. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my friend out after what he did? I, male 28, lost my late fiancé in 2018 in an auto accident. It was hard for me to process this sudden change in my life. It took me time to get in therapy. My sister helped me with it, even though it was already late. I was advised to get into a group therapy, and I did. 6 months ago, I met a guy, Jason, who also lost his partner. We started talking outside of therapy. We'd meet at different places, and he started introducing me to a few of his friends who went through the same as me and him. And I was told I'm welcome in the group. The guys do a lot of activities together. I started taking part in their activities, attend events, and do bonding activities. We'd gather every Thursday night, play video game or talk. Jason is the one who comes up with plans and activities for the guys. I noticed all 4 guys have gotten the same tattoo. When I brought it up, they said the tattoo represents the group. I decided to wait after Jason suggested I get one as well. They've mentioned that none of them wanted to meet people and start over. The issue started when Jason saw me talking online with my new girlfriend. He asked about it and seemed upset, but I told him this was just a friend because I didn't want to tell him much, so he dropped it. On Valentine's, the guys made plans to spend a night in and play games. I told them I wanted to go to my parents' house, and they said okay. I came back to my place at 8 p.m. I was surprised to see Jason there. He had a spare key, but I expected him to be with the guys. Jason looked upset. He said he was there to pick up his laptop and saw the gift my new girlfriend sent me in the morning. He asked why I didn't mention I have a girlfriend who's sending me gifts. He said I lied to the entire group and disrespected them. I was stunned when he said he threw the gift in the trash can because what I was doing was disrespectful of my late fiancé's memory. I lost my cool on him. I yelled at him, told him he had no right to try to dictate my life and get involved like that. We argued for a few minutes, and he said he hoped I'll be able to sleep at night for doing this to my late fiancé, then left. He had guys calling and texting hurtful things, calling me a liar and a manipulator. Went on about the commitment to not disrespect our partner's memories, and that I needed to make things right, or they won't be welcoming me into the group again. Thing is, Jason supported me a lot. I remember when he was the only one who had time to hear about my issues even outside of therapy. He went through a lot, and lost his wife and brother the same year. From what I understand, he's a sympathetic person, and so I trusted him and the guys as well. But I find what he did unacceptable, and the way he keeps stomping over boundaries got me stressed out. Not the a-hole. Are you sure you didn't accidentally join a cult? Glad I'm not the only one whose cult alarm bell started ringing. The tattoos in particular. Very unhealthy behavior when they control what others in the group do. Everyone has a right to grieve as long as they do, but it's wrong to force that on others. OP, not the a-hole. What the crap? You need to cut contact immediately. Get a restraining order and change your locks. Not the a-hole. Who went to your place when he knew you weren't going to be there, and snooped through your stuff and destroyed your property. And he also actively wants to prevent you from healing from the loss of your partner and finding happiness again. Maybe you shouldn't have lied, but I'm guessing you did so because you had an inkling of how he'd take your dating. That guy needs more therapy. Sorry about your old friend group. I bet now you can find a healthier one. It sounds like he's trying to create dependency and establish control. Not the a-hole. Are you sure Jason and his friends aren't a weird cult? This whole thing sounds amazingly unhealthy at this point. It may have been helpful when the wound of your fiancé's passing was fresh. Right now, he's invading your privacy, impeding your recovery, and destroying your property. You are not the a-hole for kicking him out, and I'd also be rekeying these locks. Even if he gives the key back, you never know if he made a copy. No, I know them well. They treat me well, but Jason is the only issue. He knows that I feel uncomfortable sharing everything with them, but he keeps pushing me. The key was returned. I'm not sure whether he has a copy. I haven't talked to the guys face to face yet. Maybe this was a misunderstanding because I don't see why he reacted like this other than overstepping boundaries. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that defending another woman against me is disrespectful? Obligatory, this happened last month, but I'm still pretty irritated about it. Not sure if that's the best word for what I actually feel, but oh well. Betrayed, I guess. So, I got into some pretty childish social media drama last month. It was nothing that I personally started. I had commented on a friend's post who had just had a breakup and was just offering support. Well, some woman that I don't know and have never heard of messaged me in response to my comment saying, "Don't give out relationship advice when your own relationship is trash," or something to that effect. Like I said, I had no idea who this woman was. So, all I responded with was, "Who are you and what are you even talking about? My relationship is great, and I wasn't forcing advice onto anyone." She never responded. So I show my husband the message, and immediately gets weird. Apparently, he knows this woman from years ago, and she is a really nice person. So someone must have hacked her account because she would never be mean or rude. The thing is, he only hung out with her twice, nearly 12 years ago, and spoke to her once online since that point, so he truly does not know this woman at all. So I simply asked him why he was trying to defend the woman who had reached out to me being nasty, instead of defending and taking my back. His response was, "I just don't think that it's her. I really don't." He then messaged her himself and asked her if it was her, and she said, "You know me just about well enough to know that I wouldn't say that. My son was using my phone. It was probably him. Her son is 9. I creeped. So I called BS. Anyways, he continued defending her. So I told him that it was extremely disrespectful to me that he is defending this woman and turning his back on me when I had done no wrong. He says I'm an a-hole for not dropping it, and that she said it wasn't her, so it wasn't. He also said, just because I married you doesn't mean that I can't defend another woman. I don't always have to agree with you, which was not the point I was trying to get at, obviously. Am I the a-hole? To include, it reeks of affair, I know. But the woman lives 6 states over, so that's impossible. Now for the top comments. Kinda sounds like your husband's affair partner just made herself known and is scrambling to cover it up. 99 out of 100 internet strangers think his story is BS, and he has banged her at some point. He is being very shady. He owes you a better explanation. Red flags are dancing the hulu in front of you naked. Keep pressing. He doesn't seem to be a very good liar, so the truth will probably come out soon. He's spoken to her 3 times in his life, 12 years ago, but he knows her better than that? You're not getting the full story. This, OP, it doesn't have to be a constant physical meeting to be an affair. People have emotional affairs all the time. Or maybe it isn't an affair, and maybe your husband just doesn't know how to react to an old flame for some reason, but this woman is no stranger. "You know me well enough to know" is not a statement you make to someone you've spoken to 3 times 12 years ago. Edited to add, looking through your comments, it seems most likely this was an old fling from before she moved away. Maybe he hasn't kept in contact with her since then, but crazy people stay crazy, even when you leave them alone. Not the a-hole. His behavior is extremely odd and seems a little suspicious. I also call BS on a 9-year-old writing a message like that. I'm sorry to say, but it feels like there's something else going on here. I actually thought so too, so I pulled our phone records and there was nothing out of the ordinary. And then I found out that the woman actually doesn't even live in our state anymore, so there's no way he would have been able to cheat. Update. His work tablet just pinged, and her chat had just popped up. Apparently, she saw this post. He has responded to her and they are still talking. I will update with the conversation in a second. So far, he has my back. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for arguing with my husband after he decided to sell the house without telling me? I, female 31, lost my late husband in 2016. He got sick with cancer during the first year of our marriage. It was absolutely terrible and devastating. I don't want to go into much details because it really hurts to remember those difficult times. My late husband suffered a lot, and he didn't ask for much. He just wanted to be able to sleep, but he couldn't. I remember when he used to tell me this, and it broke me. I did all I could to ease his pain, but I don't think it was enough at all. He was taken from me eventually despite everything. I have a good relationship with my former in-laws, and I'm grateful for the support they showed me. I wouldn't have been able to carry on without them. I've been married to my husband for 4 months now. He's a good man. We have our fair share of arguments just like any other couple. He's divorced, so this isn't his first serious relationship. Once he moved in with me, he said he wanted to replace all the furniture, even though it was in good condition. He insisted, and even though I didn't agree, I did it eventually because he'd get into an argument with me and turn his phone off for a few days. Next, he suggested that I donate some of my late husband's belongings, saying that I kept too many. This was hard for me to do, but I was able to sort through his belongings and kept a few things. Last month, we were talking, and he expressed being uncomfortable living at my house. He told me that every time he'd come home, feels like coming to someone else's home instead of his. He said that he can't enjoy sitting in the backyard without picturing my late husband there. He said he felt awful about it, but couldn't help it. He refused to go to therapy, thinking this was just ridiculous. At this point, it was clear he was making excuses to get me to move out of the house, since he suggested this before we got married. He knew how I felt about selling the house, but still brought it up. He then told me about a job opportunity that he didn't want to miss, and asked if I was willing to support him by agreeing to sell the house and move out of town. This was sudden, so I asked for some time to think about it, but I was surprised to find the house was already put on the market for sale. Even pictures were taken. I was furious. I had a huge argument with him. He said he thought I agreed, but he knew I wanted time to think but just decided to do what he wanted. He lashed out at me when I asked if this job opportunity really exists, and he said I was being selfish and inconsiderate, then left and turned his phone off. I have no idea how to deal with this issue, especially since he says that I'm not being supportive and constantly making him feel pressured. Now for the top comments. Let him go take the job. You keep the house. This is not about his discomfort living in a dead man's house. It's about control. You can tell because he turns his phone off to punish you for having opinions. He is manipulative and mean and does not respect you. You deserve so much better. Not the a-hole, obviously. Edit. Hijacking my own comment to echo all the Redditors talking about financial mistreatment and fraud. Once the house is sold, he will either A. use the money to put his name on the deed of a new house that he will own after you split, or B. run off with the proceeds from the sale. Please don't wait around to find out which. Also, check your credit, because if he will illegally put your house on the market, he certainly will take out credit cards in your name. I'm sorry, OP. This really is awful. Change the locks and get a divorce. That's how you deal with an abusive a-hole. Not the a-hole. Red flags. He is being toxic and controlling. If he doesn't agree to therapy, get separated. I'm never this commenter, but this may need a divorce. A marriage betrayal of this magnitude should not be an issue, but especially not 4 months in. Info. How is your current husband a good man if he got rid all of the old furniture, then your late husband's belongings, and then the house, without telling you? And ghosts her for days when he doesn't like what she has to say. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my husband out of our kids' room? My female 13-year-old son's birthday was last month. I got him an Xbox that he's been wanting for a very long time. He was able to get it after I saved up for it myself since my husband used to call this stuff useless and we shouldn't spend money on it. My husband liked playing with the Xbox very much. First, he'd play with our son, but now he has completely taken over and won't even let our son play with it even for a few hours. Not even on the weekends. He's playing most of the time, from 10 p.m. till 6 a.m., then sleeps till 12 p.m. Spends a few hours visiting gaming stores to buy new games or borrow games from his friends or nephews. Then sits in the living room and starts yelling, cursing, and pretends like he's talking to the other players while he's actually talking to the screen. He wouldn't sit at a table to eat, and instead eats in front of the screen. He won't sit with the kids and tells them he's busy whenever they ask him to help with homework. I just sit on the couch feeling like I'm not even there, while he yells and curses in front of the kids. When I told him this has been affecting his work because he'd go to sleep at 6 a.m. and wake up at 12 p.m., he asked me what I wanted him to do, go to sleep at 6 and go to work at 8? He'd call work to tell them he won't come or get someone else to cover for him. Even offer them dinner or money but never really keep his promise. I was too embarrassed to talk to anyone about this. He is clearly being obsessed. I had an argument with him when he made me lie to his mom. Then she found out he was at home when I told her he wasn't. He moved into the kids' room so he could focus on playing. The yelling and cursing continued. The kids wouldn't even be able to sleep because of him being there late at night. Last night, my daughter came to me wanting to sleep with me, saying she couldn't sleep because her dad was in their room and yelling all night. I was so mad at him, especially after I told him to stop because the kids couldn't sleep because of the noise. He kept saying, "Give me a few minutes," till it was 1:30. I had enough at this point, and I unplugged the Xbox and told him he was no longer allowed to do this in the kids' room when the kids need to sleep so they could concentrate on school. He blew up on me for ruining his game and following him from room to another and making him miserable. He argued that I have no right to kick him out of his kid's room and called me controlling for how I handled the situation when I've already told him, but he didn't listen. Now for the top comments. First, he'd play with our son, but now has completely taken over and won't even let our son play with it even for a few hours. This alone makes him the a-hole, not the a-hole. Exactly. He's a major a-hole hugging a gift given to your son. You need to create boundaries for him. If he loses his job over this, it will be like having another kid for you. Your husband needs to grow up, let your children sleep, and stop playing the gaming system that your son should be playing. For this to stop, you need to ration his time on it. Not the a-hole. Sounds like your husband has an issue. Addiction comes in all forms. Honestly, he's being unreasonable and is clearly being obsessed. At first, I thought this was normal, but it got worse, especially when it started affecting the kids as well. Not the a-hole. I would sell the console. Sadly, your son isn't getting to enjoy it. Yes, my son isn't happy about having an Xbox anymore because of his dad's behavior. I'm seriously thinking of selling it. Now for the last story. My 30 female boyfriend, 28 male, needs space from me as I didn't support him today. We have a baby who is 1 male. He had his injections yesterday, which made him feel pretty rubbish. And by rubbish, I mean that he woke up literally every hour. I did the whole night and was absolutely exhausted this morning. We had previously agreed that my boyfriend would take son to nursery, as the nursery is at his work. If I take him, which I do 99% of the time, I have to go and come back to start work at 8:30. Last night, he didn't get up for our son and even said he hoped that he still had a fever from injections, so he wouldn't have to take him in the morning. I said that makes him a crappy father to say something/wish something on him for that. Morning comes, and lo and behold, he isn't taking him because it's just too hard. I got mad and said it's pathetic his acting like this. Obviously, I do everything and get son ready, take him to the nursery. Boyfriend walks by himself to literally the same place. I have to pick him up, son, after work as well. Boyfriend is already home. When he got to work, he messaged me saying he didn't want anything to do with me for the rest of the week as I didn't support him. He said he's not doing couples therapy on Thursday and I can do it by myself. Also, that I should be sympathetic to him and care that he struggles with stuff I do all the time. Honestly, I just don't know what to do anymore. I have spent this whole relationship supporting him, and I feel like it's all used up. I know it gets snappy, but I'm pretty fed up. He is staying on the sofa tonight and playing video games. Surprise, surprise, childcare is down to me. Now for the top comments. Sounds like you're already a single mother, so you might just want to pull the hammer down. Likely, he doesn't want to go to couples therapy because he knows what he's doing is repulsive and doesn't want to be forced to verbalize how awful he treats you and his own child for his own personal gain. I came here to say this. OP, you have nothing to work with here. What kind of loser refuses to take the baby to a place they're already going? WTF? Right? The whole thing is appalling. But that is literally the weirdest and dumbest part of this craziness. F this guy. He's not a partner or a parent. Tell him to leave and contact your attorney to work out how to see his kid. Her biggest mistake was effing him. Dude is a deadbeat. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.